In the name of God we begin, with faith we live, and with the Quran we search for the truth. Welcome to the channel by Sirah or Al-Ayn, where we reflect together on the meanings of faith and the history of our nation. In this video, we will talk about an important topic, verses about the children of Israel. In this video, we will try to understand this topic through 7 main sections. First, Introduction. Second, who are the children of Israel? Third, God's honor of the children of Israel. Fourth, their interactions with their prophets. Fifth, the divine laws in their story. Sixth, why does the Quran repeat their story? Seventh, what do we learn today? Eighth and final, conclusion. And now we begin with the first section, which is the introduction. Introduction. Brothers and sisters, when we open the Book of Allah, the Almighty, and read it with reflection, not hastily, and try to connect the verses and contexts, we notice something very striking. There is a nation whose mention is repeated in the Quran more than any other, and the references to them vary between praise and warning, gratitude and reproach, promise and admonition. This nation is the children of Israel. But why? Why is their story repeated in multiple series? Why are their stories presented in such detailed accounts? Why does the Quran mention the blessings God bestowed upon them and then highlight their deviations? Is the goal merely to record history that has passed? Or does the Quran aim to present us with a complete model of a nation that lived with revelation, sometimes succeeding and sometimes failing? In this video, we will not approach the topic with emotional agitation. Nor will we generalize judgments. Nor turn the verses into a message of anger or hostility. Rather, we will read them with a calm and measured perspective. We will try to understand the Quranic context, the sequence of events, the divine laws, and the educational messages. The Quran is not a book of ethnic conflict, nor is it a book of incitement. It is a book of guidance, presenting us with real human models, with their strengths and weaknesses, obedience and disobedience, rise and fall. The mention of the children of Israel in the Quran is not meant to distract us with others, but to make us reflect on ourselves. The most dangerous thing for a reader of the Quran is to read it thinking that its message is directed only at others. So let us begin calmly, and read the verses with the eyes of one seeking lessons, not with the eyes of one seeking to blame. Who are the children of Israel? Israel is the prophet Jacob, peace be upon him. And in Hebrew, the name means, servant of Allah, or, chosen of Allah. The children of Israel are his descendants, meaning the 12 tribes that came from his sons. However, the Quran does not speak of them merely as an ethnic tribe. Rather, it presents them as a nation that carried a divine message, received revelation, and experienced a long journey with the prophets. Here is a very important point. When the Quran speaks about the children of Israel, it does not describe them as a fixed entity, but as a nation that went through various stages. The stage of weakness under Pharaoh's rule. The stage of divine salvation. The stage of wandering and testing. The stage of kingship under David and Solomon. The stage of division and decline. These stages are not just a historical sequence. They represent a recurring cycle in the life of many nations. The Quran presents to us the full experience of a nation, so that we can understand the laws of rise and fall. It is very important to emphasize, not all of the children of Israel in the Quran are reproached. Among them are prophets, righteous people, and believers. The Quran itself says, among them is a moderate nation, but many of them did evil. Thus, we are looking at a nation with natural human diversity, not a monochromatic or one-dimensional image. God's honor of the children of Israel. Allah, the Exalted, says, O children of Israel, Remember my favor which I have bestowed upon you and that I preferred you over the worlds. This simple verse alone echoes deep reflection. Allah reminds them of His blessings before mentioning their mistakes. And this is a profound educational principle. Acknowledging blessings comes before accountability. Among the blessings Allah granted them: sending successive prophets, revealing divine scriptures, deliverance from slavery, parting of the sea, the clouds providing shade, manna and quail as direct sustenance. But here we must pay attention to something very important. The preference mentioned in the Quran is not an eternal ethnic superiority. Rather, it is a preference tied to fulfilling responsibility. When a nation fulfills its role in carrying the divine message, it is elevated. When it neglects this responsibility, it falls. This is a universal principle. In Islam, dignity is not based on lineage, but on commitment and accountability. Their interactions with their prophets. This part is the heart of the video. The Quran presents multiple situations, and each one reveals an aspect of human nature. مفتاح واحد requesting to see Allah openly. After all the miracles, some of them demanded something beyond human capacity. Here appears the sickness of doubt even after clear evidence. This is not unique to them, it is a recurring human pattern. مفتاح اثنان, make for us a god like their gods. Despite being saved from idolatry, they were influenced by the surrounding culture. Here is an important lesson. Liberation from oppression does not necessarily mean liberation from misguided ideas. مفتاح ثلاثة, the story of the cow, عال, بكارة. They were commanded something simple, yet they asked excessive questions. This questioning was not sincere inquiry, but a form of avoidance. Lesson for the Muslim community. Excessive complication can be a way to evade obedience. مفتاح أربعة, breaking covenants. The covenant was clear, but their commitment was inconsistent. Here a crucial divine principle emerges. Nations do not collapse suddenly. They gradually weaken when their inner integrity diminishes. The divine laws in their story. From their story, we can extract general principles. The law of gratitude. If a blessing is not acknowledged, it can turn into a trial or punishment. The law of obedience. Empowerment is not given freely, it is granted in return for commitment and responsibility. The law of division. Internal division is more dangerous than an external enemy. The law of replacement. If a nation fails to fulfill its role, Allah may replace it with another. These divine laws are not limited to a single nation. They apply universally to all peoples. Why does the Quran repeat their story? When we reflect on the Quran, we find that the story of the children of Israel does not appear in just one place, but is repeated in multiple series: Al, Bakara, Al, Imran, An, Nisa, Al, Maida, Al, Araf, Al, Isra, and others. Here a profound question arises. Why this repetition? Is it merely a recounting of history? Or is there a deeper educational message behind it? In fact, repetition in the Quran is not linguistic redundancy, it is a pedagogical repetition. When the Quran repeats a story, it presents it from a different angle each time, highlighting a particular lesson or aspect. The story of the children of Israel, in particular, represents a comprehensive model of a nation that lived with revelation over a long period. A nation that experienced weakness and oppression, then experienced divine salvation, then experienced empowerment, then experienced division, then experienced decline. This pattern is one that many nations have gone through throughout history. So, this repetition is not for their sake alone, but for every nation that reads the Quran. It is as if the Quran tells us, look, this is a nation that carried a message. This is how they began. This is how they rose. This is how they weakened. This is how they paid the price for their mistakes. Now ask yourselves, where are you in this journey? Other deep reasons for repeating their story include: they were a nation of a book, like the Muslim community. They experienced a journey similar to that of Muslims in many aspects. Their history contains diversity in human behavior, the righteous and the sinful, the steadfast and the hesitant, the grateful and the ungrateful. The Quran does not mention them for us to be preoccupied with their history, but to present a mirror in which we can see ourselves. The most dangerous thing is for a person to read these verses thinking that they only refer to others. The Quran is not a book for comparing nations, but a book for self-accountability. What do we learn today? After understanding the context, history, and divine laws, the most important question remains: what is our relation today to these verses? Are they merely historical information? Or are they direct messages for everyone who holds the Book of Allah today? There are very deep lessons we can extract. مفتاح واحد: blessings are not a permanent guarantee. The children of Israel witnessed great miracles, yet they still fell into error. This teaches us that having blessings does not guarantee immunity from failure. We may be a nation that possesses the Quran, but the question remains: do we act upon it? مفتاح اثنان: deviation begins small. Mistakes do not start with complete collapse. They begin with hesitation, excessive questioning, internal weakness, or incomplete commitment. This is a very important lesson. Decline does not happen suddenly, it starts with small accumulations. Therefore, we must pay attention to the small details in our lives. Do we delay obedience? Do we justify mistakes? Do we compromise on principles? مفتاح ثلاثة: excessive argument weakens obedience. In the story of the cow, what was commanded was simple, but excessive questioning complicated it. This sometimes happens in our lives. We discuss too much and postpone implementation. The Quran wants from us conscious obedience, not endless debate. مفتاح أربعة: strength does not last without morality. Any nation may experience a period of power, but if that power is not built on justice and obedience, it will not endure. This is a universal lesson, not specific to any one nation. مفتاح خمسة: reform begins from within. The most crucial lesson the Quran reveals in their story is that internal corruption is more dangerous than external enemies. This applies to every nation. If it does not reform itself internally, no external victory will benefit it. مفتاح ستة: no one is above accountability. Belonging to a religion, a book, or a great history does not exempt one from responsibility. The true standard is action. This is a critical lesson for Muslims today. Belonging to Islam is an honor, but true honor lies in commitment and practice. Conclusion: at the end of this long discussion, we return to the first question: why does the Quran mention the children of Israel in such detail? We discover that the goal was not merely to record events, nor simply to criticize a past nation, but rather to build awareness and understanding. The Quran presents to us the story of a nation that lived with revelation, so that we may learn how to preserve the guidance of Allah. It shows us the experience of rising, so that we understand the reasons for empowerment, and it shows us the experience of falling, so that we may be aware of its causes. The Quran does not want us to stop at the limits of history. It wants us to go beyond history into understanding. When we read these verses, we must ask ourselves sincerely: do we truly thank Allah for His blessings? Do we uphold our covenants? Do we obey Allah's commands without excessive debate? Do we reform ourselves internally before seeking change externally? The issue is not, what did they do? The issue is, what are we doing today? The greatest danger is for the Quran to become merely a story about others, instead of a message directed to us. We ask Allah to grant us deep understanding of His book, to make us among those who reflect on these stories and do not repeat the mistakes, to reform our hearts before our circumstances, and to keep us steadfast on the truth. The lesson is not in reading more, but in sincere application. Peace, mercy, and blessings of Allah be upon you.